Assalamu alaikum and hi everyone, good day to you. In this video, I would like to share a review of two journals related to ESG risk. What is environmental, social, and governance, ESG? Before we delve into the journal reviews, let's first understand what ESG is. ESG is a framework used to assess an organization's business practices and performance on various sustainability and ethical issues. It also provides a way to measure business risks and opportunities in those areas. In capital markets, some investors use ESG criteria to evaluate companies and help determine their investment plans, a practice known as ESG investing. While sustainability, ethics, and corporate governance are generally considered non-financial performance indicators, the role of an ESG program is to ensure accountability and the implementation of systems and processes to manage a company's impact, such as its carbon footprint and how it treats employees, suppliers, and other stakeholders. ESG initiatives also contribute to broader business sustainability efforts that aim to position companies for long-term success based on responsible corporate management and business strategies. We move to the journal review number 1, which is the Incorporating ESG Risk in Bank Lending in Bangladesh by authors, Sarwaruddin Ahmed, School of Business, Independent University Bangladesh, Dhaka, Bangladesh, and Madiur Rahman, College of Business, McNeese State University, LA, USA. Source, International Research Journal of Finance and Economics ISSN 1450-2887 Issue 120 March, 2014. Objectives. The primary objective of this study is to evaluate the current status of incorporating ESG risks in bank lending decisions in Bangladesh. Additionally, the study aims to provide well-grounded recommendations for policymakers to effectively integrate ESG factors into the banking sector's risk assessment processes. The methodology of this research used to achieve the study's objectives, a multifaceted research approach was employed. 1. Primary survey. A structured questionnaire was distributed to credit department officials at the head offices of all 30 private commercial banks in Bangladesh to gather first-hand insights into the bank's current practices and attitudes towards incorporating ESG risks in their credit assessment processes. 2. Cross-matching of responses. Survey responses were cross-matched with publicly available information such as annual reports, official websites, and regulatory notifications. Additionally, data were validated through consultations with officials from Bangladesh Bank. 3. Secondary data collection. Secondary data was collected from credible sources, including publications by Bangladesh Bank, Bangladesh Securities and Exchange Commission, Dhaka Stock Exchange, and UNEP Finance Initiatives. As for the variables, the study proposes enhancing the existing credit risk grading system by incorporating key ESG risk factors alongside traditional financial, business, management, security, and relationship risk components. The critical ESG variables considered include environmental compliance, environmental impact, workplace standards, equal employment opportunities, corporate governance. The findings of the research is as follows. Acknowledgement of ESG importance. All surveyed banks recognize the importance of incorporating ESG risks into their credit assessment processes. Qualitative versus quantitative measurement. Currently, 90% of the banks measure ESG risks qualitatively, while only 10% have adopted quantitative measurement techniques. Regulatory guidance. Bangladesh Bank has issued circulars to encourage ESG banking. However, the implementation of these guidelines by banks remains largely voluntary and inconsistent. As the conclusion, while there is a clear recognition of the importance of ESG integration among Bangladeshi banks, actual practices are still in the early stages of evolution. To promote sustainable banking practices, policymakers need to adopt a structured approach that drives the effective incorporation of ESG factors into lending decisions. This approach will enhance the overall risk management framework and align the banking sector with global sustainability standards. Next will be the journal review number 2, The Place of Sustainable Development in ESG Risks Formation in Banking Sector. Authors, Magomyad Tashtamirov and Kadyrov Chechen State University, Grozny, Russia. The objective. This bibliometric review aims to provide an overview of research on the relationship between ESG factors and risk in the banking sector. The goal is to identify key topics, methodologies, and findings to highlight future research directions and provide valuable implications for companies and policymakers. The methodology. The authors conducted a systematic and bibliometric review using the Scopus database, including articles containing the keywords ESG and risk in the title, abstract, or author keywords. The review process involved several stages. 1. Construction of a transformational business model, integrating ESG factors into the traditional banking business model. 2. Identification and grouping of ESG risks, using logical generalization, systematization, and grouping methods to determine the impact of ESG risks on banks. 3. Comparative analysis, comparing the effects of the COVID-19 crisis and ESG risks on banks. The variables. The review focused on various types of ESG risks and their impacts on the banking sector. Key variables included physical risks, acute and chronic, transition risks, financial and non-financial dimensions. Findings. Varied research focus. The most cited papers are related to ESG risk and asset allocation and the effects of ESG practices on company valuation, indicating a fragmented research field. Geographical focus. Most research is concentrated on listed companies and developed markets, with less attention to non-listed companies, SMEs, and developing or emerging economies. Core research stream. The primary focus is on improving economic or financial metrics through ESG investing. Fewer studies examine how to decrease ESG risks themselves. Challenges for companies. Companies face challenges in integrating ESG factors, including a lack of standardized ESG data and metrics, difficulties in identifying material ESG issues, and the need for greater transparency and accountability in ESG reporting. As for the conclusion, this bibliometric review provides a comprehensive overview of research on ESG and risk in the banking sector. It highlights key topics, methodologies, and findings, and identifies important gaps and challenges in the literature. The recommendations for future research aim to advance the understanding of ESG risks and their implications for companies, investors, and policymakers. Analysis and recommendations for both paper. The analysis are as follows. 1. Both studies emphasize the growing importance of ESG factors in the banking sector, highlighting the need for banks to integrate these risks into their risk management frameworks. 2. The first study shows that while Bangladeshi banks acknowledge the importance of ESG risks, the actual integration into lending practices is still developing. There is a clear need for more structured and consistent approaches. 3. The second study points out the fragmented nature of research on ESG risks and calls for more standardized methodologies and comprehensive data to better understand and mitigate these risks. As for the recommendations, it is recommended to focus on the following. 1. For policymakers, develop and enforce standardized guidelines for ESG risk assessment in the banking sector. Encourage the adoption of quantitative measurement techniques for ESG risks. Promote transparency and accountability in ESG reporting among banks. 2. For banks, invest in training and resources to enhance the understanding and integration of ESG factors in credit assessment processes. Collaborate with regulators and industry bodies to align practices with global sustainability standards. Utilize both qualitative and quantitative methods to assess ESG risks comprehensively. 3. For researchers, conduct more studies focused on the practical implementation of ESG risk mitigation strategies. Expand research to include non-listed companies, SMEs, and developing or emerging economies to provide a more inclusive understanding of ESG risks. Develop standardized ESG data and metrics to facilitate better comparison and analysis across different contexts. By following these recommendations, we can promote a more sustainable and responsible banking sector that aligns with global sustainability goals. Thank you.